You from the Carter Subaru studio and streaming on Facebook Live. Welcome. Welcome to the big show. I don't know if I should do this. Every story that I have from my life, my childhood, you and Nicole have heard 10 times, at least.
And it gets better each time.
There's one story that I have never shared on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And you just had something in your newscast that made me think of it.
Mm.
And I probably shouldn't share it.
Oh, no. Just.
Okay, the Macy's at Northgate that's closing.
Yes.
When it was, I don't know why I'm doing this. This is really stupid.
This is really spontaneous.
This is really stupid. When it was, but it flashes in my head because it's just one of those indelible moments of childhood. Hey, Nicole's just walking in the studio. Nicole, I'm going to tell a story that you've never heard before. How exciting is that?
I didn't know there was one I hadn't heard.
I know. Well, he just said that we've heard all his stories, but
This
there
is
is
one I've never told on the air.
And he just.
And I don't think I've ever told it to anybody off the air.
Wow.
Which could always be dangerous.
So
And he's starting to sweat right now, so
Yeah,
this
yeah.
could be good.
Should have saved it.
So I know I should just tease it and come back to it. I'm not going to do that because I didn't know I was going to talk about this. So in Ursula's newscast, Nicole, she mentioned that the Macy's at Northgate is closing.
Yes.
Of course, the Macy's used to be the Bon Marché.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most indelible moments of my childhood happened in that building. I was 10 years old. My mom she had to get something. And I have no idea why, but I went into the dressing room with her.
Okay.
Which is kind of weird. But,
You
know,
do it.
10-year-old.
You're little. Yeah. Okay.
So my mom's trying on clothes. The wall that divided the dressing rooms, there was about an inch or two gap between the divider wall and the back wall. I was a peeping Tom.
No.
I was watching this redhead in the next cubicle, and I saw her topless. And my eyeball is just glued against that gap in that building. And it was the first time
You were 10.
I was 10. It was the first time I ever saw a woman topless.
And that's what you associate Macy's / Bon Marché with.
Ursula, if you know anything about 10-year-old boys, yes.
I had two of them
yes,
at one point.
that's the number one thing I associate with that building. It was, up to that moment, the greatest moment of my life.
Oh, my goodness.
There you go. Look at that. I had one new story that neither of you had ever heard before.
Should
How
have
about
saved it
that?
for the live show.
That is true.
Yeah. You know what's disturbing, though?
Okay, just want to make sure, though, that was the one time, and the reason it sticks in your head is because you didn't keep doing that, like, through your teen years.
Oh, I always wanted to go in with Mom. Yeah.
That was a one-time deal, right?
Yes.
It was not a lifelong
Not
time.
for a lack of trying
Oh.
future occasions, but it was the only time I actually saw something.
I think if we were all to be truthful, at some point in our childhood, we all had kind of moments like that where your
really
eyes are
cute,
going
too.
where your eyes are going where they probably shouldn't be.
She looks like she was about 20. You know what's really disturbing, though? She's 67 now. Okay, there's a little bonus material for you today to kick off the big show.
Nothing wrong with 67.
Thank you.
67-year-old listeners.
Actually, this was 1972, but yeah, close enough. Okay, with that as mere prelude, let's disturbingly get to the big lead.
The big lead. Top story.
I'm going to miss that building when they tear it down. So I mentioned this yesterday, that as long as we have not just public officials, elected leaders, as long as we have people in power who are trying to deceive us and trying to lie to us, there is no chance of solving any of our issues around here. And I mentioned yesterday, and I've done a bit of a deeper dive into these numbers now, that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, a couple groups, I don't know, Campion Advocacy Fund, Rakes Foundation, and the Ballmer Group. So we're talking about two of the richest human beings on the planet, Bill and Melinda, or several of the richest in their couples, Bill and Melinda Gates and the Ballmer Group, that they commissioned this poll about homelessness. And this is part of, we told you about this, that there is a bunch of stakeholders, including, some of these very wealthy philanthropic groups. They have decided to do a counter narrative to Channel 4's Seattle is Dying. And they have a hashtag, Seattle for All. And they're trying to push out that things are not bad. And all of us see on a regular basis, the Seattle Times had a piece, well, violent crime's not as bad as it was. Property crime's not as bad as it was back in the 70s. Well, violent crime, property crime in the 70s in America, in every major city, were at all-time record highs. And, yeah, they've come down. But what we're talking about specifically is drug vagrants in tents and under tarps all around Seattle. And so to try to tell us that reality is not so is not just counterproductive, but it ensures that we're not going to accomplish anything. So this is a real push-pull question. They said most people that they polled, 50, and there's a Stuart Elway poll, 53% said we are not spending enough on homelessness when they learned that homelessness increased by 9% since 2014, while spending on social services had only increased by 2.4%. That is the purest definition of a push-pull question, where you phrase it to get a desired result. You tell somebody, homelessness has increased 10%, but we've only increased spending by 2%. Do you think we're spending enough? And then people, no. What that doesn't tell you is the reason homelessness has increased 10% is because people have moved from all over the country to come to the best region in America in which to be a drug addict. Now, if they said that, if they said, we've increased spending to $100,000 per homeless person per year, and many, if not most of them, have come from out of the region, do you think we should spend more? Well, then 99% would say, no, I don't think we should spend more. And then you always have the insane 1%. Oh, yeah, we should give up more money. But the push-pull nature of that question is designed to get tax hikes. And it's the tiniest. They had to really push-pull to barely get it above 50%, 53% when the question is phrased that way. And then they said that the perception differs from what they are pushing out as reality. They said the poll respondents, 60%, believe that those who are homeless have a drug addiction or alcohol abuse problem. And then they cite that bogus survey that the city of Seattle always is part of, the all home point in time, which again is designed to make the homeless look as innocent to their, the problems that have contributed to their homelessness. to make them look like they are victims of this horrible, expensive housing, even though joblessness is at a 60-year low in America. If you want to work, you can find a job in America. There are far more jobs available than there are people looking for work. And so the narrative is we want to get as much of your money as possible. So they say 60% believe that the homeless have a drug addiction or alcohol abuse problem. But they said, when we did the point-in-time count, only 21% said that they had a drug or alcohol problem. And alcohol is a drug. I'm just not going to play the little semantic game. Alcohol is a drug. Yes, I agree. But they're telling us only 21% have a drug or alcohol problem? That's a load of crap. And you know it, and I know it, and the people who did this poll know it, and I suspect that Bill and Melinda Gates and Steve Ballmer know it. But they are pushing this out, and that's what I want to find out. Why? Why? What's this coordinated effort to make the home? Oh, one other about coming from out of town. They believe that 40% of the homeless are not from this community. But All Home found 83% reported living in King County or Seattle immediately prior to losing housing. You know why? Because so many of them list the Downtown Emergency Service Center as their last address. If they came from Phoenix or from Austin, Texas, and they had one service at the Downtown Emergency Center, then they are encouraged to list that as their last address because, again, they want you and me to feel like these are the kids we grew up with in junior high, and they've just fallen on hard times, and they don't have any drug problems, they don't have any alcohol problems, and we should just spend more than $100,000 per homeless person per year. And I find it disturbing when, Bill and Melinda Gates and most of their philanthropy, they are focused on efficiency and bang for their buck when they donate money. Seattle right now is an impossibility because of who's in power politically and because of narratives like this. And so I think that it's really interesting that all of these community stakeholders, and I've told you what it's about. There are some people on that list of community stakeholders who are just all about socialism. And the only way you get there is to make things worse. And then you can rebuild in your image. Now, I don't think that's how Bill and Melinda Gates or Steve Ballmer feel. And that's why I don't understand why they're participating in this when the poll is such utter nonsense. And the data that is cited. Do you believe only 21% have a drug or alcohol abuse problem? Is there anybody listening to my voice right now? And we're not talking about Seattle. We're talking about Marysville and Salton. We're talking about Enumclaw and Fife. I mean, it's everywhere. Paulsbo, you name it. It's happening in our region. Do you believe that only 21%, because they are citing the self-reporting? Yeah, you go talk to a homeless drug vagrant, and you say, hey, are you homeless because of a drug or alcohol problem? No. No. So here's what we have to do. And, the answer has never, ever, ever been more clear. We have to have services for every single person who wants to turn their life around. Drug, alcohol treatment, mental health, housing, meals, job training. If they refuse that, and they're found using any amount of heroin or meth, instead of saying, hey, we're going to put a government-sponsored place where you can shoot up, instead of that, which, by the way, the U.S. attorney has shot down. I'll tell you about that in just a second here. But instead of legalizing heroin, as King and Snohomish counties have done, we have to spend the money that we're spending on the ridiculous homeless industrial complex, and we got to build more prisons, and we got to tell people, you're not allowed to camp on the streets. We will provide you a place if you get into a treatment program. But a bed and meals are conditional on you getting into treatment and mental health counseling and eventually job training, and we're going to help you get back on your feet. We're going to help you get your life back. We will do that for every single person who wants it. We will say that there is no camping in public spaces anywhere, no camping on sidewalks, and if you continue to do so, we're going to lock you up. We're going to say you cannot shoot up heroin in front of Seattle police officers. If you do, you'll be arrested and locked up. We will reverse the policies of the King and Snohomish County prosecutors. Because, look, this is not working. The path that we're on, the strategies that are being employed, and things are getting worse and worse. And we're not going to tweak our way out of a tweaker problem. We must do a 180. And if the people who have been elected aren't willing to do it, you got to get rid of them, and you got to put somebody in power who's got the guts to do what needs to be done. We will give everybody who wants it treatment and a home and meals and job training and whatever you need. But you must be clean, and you will be drug tested throughout the process. You don't want that? We don't have a spot for you. Anywhere in the Puget Sound area. No tents, no tarps. We'll enforce vagrancy laws. We will enforce all drug laws. And it's time for a 180. That's the reality. And all of these stakeholder billionaires, I'm amazed. When you know what it takes to build a responsible, self-sufficient life, I'm amazed that they're buying in to this. Let's just tax people more. Yeah, and then we'll import another 10,000 drug vagrants from around the country because this is the best place in the United States to be an addict. And that is your big lead for today.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
Woo! We're just getting rolling here. Okay, Ursula's going to check the news, and then I'm going to talk to a guy. He's getting his master's in education. He's doing his student teaching, and he cannot believe some of the curriculum he's seeing in the schools. And he's going to talk with me about it next on the Dori Monson Show.